Yeah, I mean, I went vegan first for health reasons, and then through research, I learned about what's happening in animal agriculture. So then it slowly transitioned, well, not even slowly, it just transitioned into being an ethical thing for me. I became very passionate about that when I first went vegan. I mean, I'm still very passionate about it, but I was a lot more vocal about it. And I found that it was really turning people off. So now I've decided to just kind of live my advocacy or live this lifestyle that I'm so passionate about through food. So I lead with a fork instead.
Hey, I'm Scott Jones from eMeals, and you're listening to Real Food for Real Life. On this episode, I talk with Candice Hutchings, the woman behind the fun and actually very funny blog and YouTube channel, The Edgy Veg. Candice tells us about her unique, carnivore-approved approach to vegan, as well as how she came up with all the delicious-looking recipes in her new cookbook. Now, before we get to the interview, I have a few housekeeping items. First, send us your questions and comments. We read all of them. And if you have a suggestion for a future guest or a potential topic, I'd love to know that too. You can find us on Twitter at eMeals using the hashtag AskEmeals. We also have an email address. It's community@emeals.com. If you don't already subscribe to our podcast, subscribe today. It's simple to do. You can find us at itunes.com/podcast/Real Food for Real Life. And while you're there, leave us a review. And finally, if you'd like more information on eMeals and our variety of meal plan food styles, you can find us at emeals.com. Try any of our meal plans free for 2 weeks, be it paleo, clean eating, or gluten-free. You can even have your shopping list sent directly to Walmart pickup at no charge, so your groceries are waiting for you. One quick note about the audio quality of this episode. In my exuberance to interview Candice, I forgot one critical step: turn on my mic. While the audio on my questions is less than stellar, thankfully Candice's answers are fantastic. So I hope you are able to still enjoy the interview as much as I enjoyed chatting with her. Hey Candice, how's the Edgy Veg doing today?
Good, really good. We are cooking up a storm in our kitchen for the holidays, so that's really exciting.
Fantastic. What kind of stuff are you working on?
Right now, I'm actually working on a gingerbread cake.
Oh my goodness. So it sounds like you're deep down in the desserts?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I guess vegans can enjoy dessert too. That's not off the table, right?
Oh, absolutely. There's a whole dessert section in my book. And I'm not a huge baker, so a lot of them are no bake, which is really great for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And, they're just as decadent and delicious as, not to use the word normal, but regular or normal desserts.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, I want to obviously talk about your new cookbook, which is really cool. It's a terrific book. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I think it'd be helpful, just for before we get started, for you just to kind of give us a helicopter ride over your background and how you got into eating vegan and cooking vegan, and then how you got to what is now this wonderful brand, the Edgy Veg.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we do at the Edgy Veg is we have a website or blog, like recipe blog, and then we also have a YouTube channel where we take really indulgent and usually meat-heavy or dairy-heavy meals or recipes, and we create the vegan version of it. So that's what we do at the Edgy Veg, and it's always really fun, lots of taste testing, lots of really decadent meals, which is awesome. And it's myself and my husband James, who as of this year is almost vegan, but he's still working on it. And he taste tests all the food that we do, so that's pretty awesome. And I went vegan about 8 years ago, so it's been a while. And I went vegan because I was having a lot of skin issues. I was having a lot of rosacea, and my acne was always really terrible. And I actually went to a naturopath, and they said, well, you're also getting a lot of migraines as well. Why don't we try cutting out dairy and see if that makes a difference at all? And it did. My migraines, weren't as frequent, and my skin started to clear up. So then after a few months of doing that, he said, why don't you try getting rid of all animal protein altogether? And I did that for a while, and my skin changed completely. It was like night and day.
Wow.
Yeah. And, at the time I was trying to figure out what to eat and how to cook. And I always loved cooking, but I didn't know very much. So at the time, there weren't a lot of vegan substitutes. There wasn't like really great vegan cheeses like there are now, or cream cheese or meat substitutes. So I knew that the only way to keep eating the vegan way was if I could still eat all of those foods that I loved. I mean, I'm a foodie first, and I grew up in Germany and Europe, where I ate certain things, and I had a lot of comfort foods and memories with food. And if I couldn't eat those, I knew that this would never stick. So I just started creating them because they weren't there.
Outside of the manifestations of the skin issues, did you see other things that, immediately improved over time?
Yeah, absolutely. My skin in general, all over my body, was a lot more. I guess the word that I would use is like supple. It got a lot of color back. I also lost quite a bit of weight. I wasn't someone that needed to lose weight. I mean, in the average person's eye, but with eating a lot of the things that we do on the traditional diet, and being quite young at the time myself, I didn't know what I was doing. And so when I went vegan, I lost a lot of weight, and I just toned out, which was really, really great. And I didn't even really work out all that much. I was doing yoga, but I definitely lost a lot of weight. I felt really good. People would notice things like the whites in my eyes were brighter, and that was pretty amazing.
Yeah. So how did you avoid some of the junk food vegan pitfalls and actually combine a meat-free diet or an animal product-free diet with, eating whole, healthy foods?
Yeah, I mean, at first I did kind of fall, victim to the junk food, like veggie dog thing, and that's fine. And once I learned to navigate, things got better. And sometimes I still fall into that slump where we have those really great vegan convenience foods, and I'm short on time, and I will still do that once in a while. But it's really just, I lived by this philosophy of adding something a live food item to every meal that I have, and making sure that my plate was filled with color. So if you use that general rule, I mean, for me as specifically, if my plate was filled with color and I was eating sort of through the rainbow of fruits and vegetables, I knew that I would be okay. At first I was doing, the carb substituting. So I got rid of meat and I would replace it with empty carbs, like breads and pastas. So once I got a rein in on that, I switched pastas and breads for quinoa and brown rice and healthier versions of pastas. And it's just about monitoring. I mean, listen to your body. And like I said before, if you stick with the rule, eat the rainbow, you're kind of already there.
Yeah, and I hear that phrase a lot in kind of the vegan and vegetarian communities, and that does, it really makes a lot of sense. If you just make sure you have some color on your plate, you're probably not eating a lot of brown cooked meat and brown, refined flour breads and pastas and things.
Yeah, and that's the case for any diet, really, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, cut to, I guess you feel like you're starting to blog about these things and create recipes and some social media things. Like, when did this notion of turning your experience into a media brand, Edgy Veg?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I started the blog more of a diary for myself. And then all of a sudden people were reading it, which is a nice surprise. So that was pretty amazing. And at the time, I wasn't even posting photos. I really had no idea how to run a blog and even a food blog nonetheless, with really great photos. So it was just recipes. But then I think the turning point for me was we were just shy of 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. And in order to keep going on YouTube with the momentum that we had and to keep growing the way that we want it to grow, it was either, keep my job or quit my job and do this full time. And I think it was when I had not slept for a full 48 hours because I was doing both jobs that my husband just looked at me and was like, that's it. You're quitting your job. Do this full time. I will support you. And, we'll try it out for 2 years. If we're not making money in 2 years, then you'll go back to agency life. I was in advertising before, and I haven't gone back. So it worked out.
Well, no, there's no question it's worked out. But were you have a lot of interaction with clients in the agency? Because Candice, you look like you've been in front of the camera your entire life.
Well, it's really funny. I suffered from severe camera shyness and shyness in general. I was the person that never put her hand up in class. I like to be a wallflower. I didn't like being the center of attention. But the next natural progression from the blog at the time, this was like 2010, was video. Everybody was doing video. So I kind of had to get over that. And through a combination of just practice and taking improv classes to get my confidence up and yeah, exactly. And lots of practice. I just got better. I mean, I did the improv for my agency job because I was really nervous talking to clients. And so I just needed the confidence and the practice, and it just kind of, translated to camera, which is even better. It's a nice side effect.
No kidding. Well, congratulations to you, because it really does help add a lot of fun and energy to your brand. And this is a great segue to talk about your new cookbook. So you decide to write a book. You write this book, create the book. It sounds like in like a matter of months, like 3 months. And this thing's out on the market, and I feel like it just has I must say that I feel like the landscape of vegan cookbooks is just expanding like mad, with tons of really gifted writers and recipe developers and photographers. But this just kind of stands out as just something that's just got a little zip or pep to it. And I think and that's for me personally, I think what caught it was this whole notion of these are carnivore approved recipes. And it sounds like your husband, who co-authored the book with you, was decidedly not vegan, I guess, when this started. But just how did you arrive at that whole notion of taking the concept of veganism and then coupling it with the whole carnivore thing and, just making that part of the brand?
I think it started, right from the beginning of when I kind of decided, okay, this is going to be a blog now and a YouTube channel. I wanted to appeal to the traditional meat eaters, and dairy consumers, let's just call them that. And I was sick of seeing the stereotype of a frail, kale-eating vegan. And I was sick of the stereotype that, all vegans do is drink smoothies and have this perfect life where they frolic, amongst tropical trees and in the forest. I wanted to have a brand that was food forward, like foodie forward. Yeah. So all the food that I indulged eating in before I was vegan, I mean, that's what I wanted. So I knew that I wouldn't be able to have the clout. I'm sure that a lot of people would be like, yeah, okay, she hasn't had meat in X amount of years. What does she know what it tastes like? So I knew that I couldn't have that kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like trust from people reading it if I didn't have someone. Yeah, exactly. The street cred, if I didn't have someone taste testing these recipes and being overly critical. And so my husband was that person and is that person still that kind of looks at me and says, wait, this is supposed to be cheese. This tastes nothing like cheese. What are you trying to do? Go back to the drawing board, which isn't always easy to hear. Right. But that's kind of where it came from. And in testing the book, we had him and his family and our neighbors. We have a neighbor that eats like one steak a day. He's a huge steak foodie. He travels all around the world to eat really rich meals. So he taste tested a lot of the recipes in the book as well. So, that stamp of approval, I think, like you said before, it really makes us stand out. It's not just vegan food. It's food if you like food.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a great way to get at it. And I've always been a big proponent of that entry point into some type of food style, whether it's, you're diabetic or gluten-free or, low cal. Like it shouldn't, the answer shouldn't be, well, this is okay for diabetic food or this is okay for vegetarian food. Either it's good or it's not good.
Well, that's exactly it. And that was the goal with the book is I would love to just remove the word vegan and just be like, this is good food. Yes, it's vegan. It's good food that just happens to be vegan.
Exactly. So getting back to just kind of your philosophy around, eating vegan, like, how do you actually view that in the scope of, because there's I know for those who might be thinking about, trying a vegan diet, there's just a lot of information out of there, a lot of very passionate opinions about, what veganism should and shouldn't be and the moral, ethical part of it, outside of the food and the lifestyle part of it. Like, how do you come to that?
Yeah, I mean, I went vegan first for health reasons. And then through research, I learned about what's happening in animal agriculture. So then it slowly transitioned, well, not even slowly, it just transitioned into being an ethical thing for me. So I became very passionate about that when I first went vegan. I mean, I'm still very passionate about it, but I was a lot more vocal about it. And I found that it was really turning people off. So now I've decided to just kind of live my advocacy or live this lifestyle that I'm so passionate about through food. So I lead with a fork instead.
Yeah.
So with this book, we make fun of vegans in this book. We make fun of ourselves, but at the end of the day, we still give this message of you can be more compassionate. You can live a more compassionate lifestyle that's more like just as delicious, sometimes more so, and healthier for you through making these recipes. And I don't need the world. I mean, I would love for the world to go vegan, but that's not my goal because it's not a realistic goal. But if I can take a meat eater and have them change even one recipe a week, that makes a huge difference. And that's more the goal that I have with this book, is to kind of bridge the divide between the vegans and the meat eaters. Right. I feel like, especially on social media, it's just so angry. There's emotions. So we try to take a lighter take on it and kind of appeal to people's taste buds first.
Right.
And then, of course, if you follow what we do and you watch our videos, then, of course, you learn about the ethical things behind it as well. And it's a wonderful side effect to watching what we do. But we definitely do food forward.
Well, continuing on that idea of vegan recipes for carnivores, in full disclosure, I had lunch at a barbecue restaurant today. And right on that barbecue menu, right under the brisket, was Bbq Jackfruit. And people were ordering it like crazy. Tell me about that.
That's actually one of my favorite recipes. It's actually one of my go-tos when I have a mixed audience that I'm cooking for, or when I have someone that says, oh, I want to make something vegan. What should I make?
Yeah.
Jackfruit is so cheap and inexpensive to buy. You buy young jackfruit in a can, so you do not want it to be ripe. When it comes from a can and you get it in brine or water, not in syrup, it has no flavor, which is exactly what you want. And you can marinate that and then cook it up, and it's very fibrous. So you can take, 2 forks and shred it exactly like you would pulled pork, or the way that I prefer to do it is with a potato masher because it's quicker, and I'm all about saving time. Just mash that up in the pan and then toss it with the barbecue sauce. And it's so similar. The texture, the taste, the flavor, it's mind blowing. Throw a really nice slaw on there and, call it a day. You can make that in like 30 minutes.
And so if you're purchasing it by the can, like how many servings do you get out of a can? So if I wanted to go home tonight and make, barbecue jackfruit for my family, like how many cans would I need?
Yeah, my rule is kind of 1 can for 2 people. So I would do 2 cans for a family of 4.
Right.
And that's a little bit more than what you'll need, but leftovers are the best thing ever. So.
Right. And so is it no cook? So you take it out, you shred it, you would toss it with the sauce, you might caramelize it, heat it up, but does it require additional cooking or baking or sauteing time?
The way that I do it is I throw it into a pan with onions, so caramelized onions or just even raw onions if you're trying to save time. Throw it in there with some raw onions, cook it down until the onions are translucent and the pulled pork has become softened and warmed through. Then shred it, then toss the barbecue sauce on there, and you can continue to cook that so that the flavor really permeates into the jackfruit. I mean, it all depends on how much time you have. So, I mean, I let it simmer for another 15 minutes in the barbecue sauce and then take it out and put it on a sandwich. But you can just toss it and then put it on the sandwich right away. It all depends on how much time you have.
Right. That sounds delicious.
Yeah, and you can use that jackfruit in the barbecue sauce and make tacos out of it as well. We actually, at our place, not too long ago, made homemade poutine and tossed it on the poutine as well. So you can use that in place of any recipe that you would use pulled pork in.
Yeah. So I'm assuming that you have, among your many followers, that there may be some newbies coming to you for advice and tips. What are some of the things you're sharing with your viewers?
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of our viewers aren't even vegan, which is amazing, and are just interested in knowing, how to go on their journey, which is great. And I always tell people, you don't have to go vegan cold turkey, to use the worst euphemism ever, but you don't have to do it overnight. You really don't. I didn't do it overnight. I think, if you can, that's amazing, but I didn't, and most people can't. And so I say, pick the thing that you love most, whether it's cheese or whether it's meat. For me, I grew up not eating a lot of meat, so I never enjoyed it. So I cut the meat first because I love cheese. So I say, remove one element first. Don't turn your life upside down right away. So slowly remove one element of that diet. So for me, it was meat. So I cut out meat for the first month. Then I cut out eggs. Then I was cutting out eggs and meat for the second month. Then the third month, I cut out meat, dairy, and eggs. So for the third month, that's what I had cut out. Then afterwards, and this is all visible dairy, so milks, cheese, yogurts. And then the fourth month, I cut out all in what I call invisible dairy and eggs. So like cookies, for example. Cakes, that sort of thing, anything that you can't see it. And then within 4 months, you are more or less vegan, which is great. And you did it on your own pace. And I always tell people, if you slip up and you order something in a restaurant and you forgot to ask without cheese, or if you forgot to tell them that you don't have cheese and it shows up with cheese, just eat it and don't beat yourself up over it. Because the only way that this lifestyle is going to benefit anybody is if you're happy. If you're not happy, then what are you doing? So I always tell people, there's a lot of folks that are harsh on vegans and new vegans, and I think that's completely wrong. We all have to support each other. So I tell people, don't beat yourself up over it. Just, you don't want to waste food either. And if you push that back to the server and they take it back, it's just going to get thrown out. And then that animal goes to waste. So, don't beat yourself up over it in the first couple months, and just do what makes you happy. The second piece of advice that I give people is keep eating the foods that you love. Just find the vegan substitutions for it. So if your family, for example, you have 3 kids and they love eating spaghetti and meatballs, then replace the meatballs with the vegetarian version and keep serving that. If your family loves tacos, or you are an individual that loves tacos, find out how to make a vegan taco and keep doing that. So have a repertoire of your favorite meals that you already love eating, and just find the vegan substitutes for that and learn how to make them yourself. I mean, if you hate kale and you decide to go vegan and then you think that all you should be eating is kale, well, you're going to fail because you don't like kale. So why are you eating it? So that's my biggest piece of advice is, slowly start building recipes. When I went vegan, I had a notebook with all of the recipes that I developed that I loved. And then it's your own personal cookbook that you can keep going back to.
Yeah, I love the idea of that phased-in approach.
Yeah, absolutely. And daily habits. And, not that it really, it shouldn't matter, but it's also easier on your community, your friends, and your family to adjust to as well. I mean, I hate to say, that it matters what they think, but of course it does, because all of a sudden for me, when I first did it, I saw myself as a burden. And I think that turns people off the diet a lot, is because they're seen as a burden or a nuisance. So if you slowly also transition your family and friends into that idea that you are no longer eating meat and then you are no longer eating dairy, it helps them as well. And it's not so jarring for them.
Yeah, so you're basically saying don't try this before the holidays or during the holidays. Try it after. Try it when there's a stretch between major eating holidays.
Yeah. You know what? The first year that I went vegan and I went home for the holidays, it was like I told my family I had killed my sister.
Yeah.
Like they didn't know what to do with me. They had no idea. And at the time I wasn't cooking the things that I'm cooking now. So I was eating sad vegetable side dishes because, vegetables seem to be the afterthought in a lot of holiday meals.
Yeah. So you're writing the success of your new cookbook, which has been out a couple of months, and I suspect you'll be working hard to promote that book. But what's next for the Edgy Veg?
Yeah. So, like you said, promoting the book. Holidays very soon. It makes a great gift. And we're trying to get the book into the hands of as many people as we can. We also have been taking a bit of a hiatus on the YouTube channel this year because we did write this book in such a short amount of time, and promoting the book and, doing wonderful interviews like this has been taking up a lot of our time. So we're really, really excited to go back to making videos, recipe videos and lifestyle videos, and really ramping that up. We've become, my husband and I, we go through our ebbs and flows of being really inspired and then being a bit drained. And now that the book is done, we're re-inspired to, redesign the show that we're doing on YouTube and come up with some really cool ideas. We also would love to explore the idea of creating some food products, some Edgy Veg branded vegan food products, because there's some stuff out there still that, not to toot my own horn, but I think mine's better. So I would love to share that with the world. So that's something we're exploring as well. So those are the two main things that we're focusing on.
Well, that's cool. And I certainly wish you and your husband all the best success on the remainder of the book publicity. And I'll definitely have links to purchase your book and to your blog and to the YouTube channel in the show notes, so everyone listening will have an opportunity to have access to those resources. But thanks so much for hanging out with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I had a great time. This is a great chat.
You've been listening to Real Food for Real Life. Subscribe today and you'll never miss another episode. You'll also have access to past episodes with terrific guests ranging from cookbook authors to paleo experts, eating experts to fitness pros. You can find us at itunes.com/podcast/Real Food for Real Life. And when you subscribe, be sure to leave us a review. You can also find us on other popular podcast apps like Stitcher and Google Play Music. If you have questions about this episode or our podcast, feel free to email me at community@emails.com, or you can tweet them to me at emails using the hashtag #AskEmeals. To get more information on emails and our variety of meal plans, visit us at emails.com. Until next time, I'm Scott Jones. Thanks for listening.